So welcome back to the channel, guys. My name is Ecommerce for those of you who don't know, and I'm a Google Ads primarily for e-commerce expert. In today's video, I'm going to take you through how to optimize Google Performance Max campaigns. So for those of you that don't know, what are Google Performance Max campaigns? Performance Max campaigns are Google's newest type of campaign. Basically, they allow you to show your ads across virtually all of their platforms through one single campaign. So you've got a single campaign that allows you to get on search, shopping, display, discovery, YouTube, Gmail, all these different areas just through one single campaign. So super simple. If you haven't already set up a campaign, I do have a video on how to do this. So in this video, we're going to assume you already have a campaign set up. Performance Max campaigns can be used for both lead generation, so getting leads for your business, if you're a service-based business like a plumber or something like that, and also for e-commerce companies as well. So if you want to get more sales, these campaigns can do that for you. Guys, before we get into the video, if you wouldn't mind, please subscribe to the channel. It really helps us grow and reach more people who want to learn about Google Ads, digital marketing, e-commerce, and the like. Lots more content coming, so stay tuned, hit that notification bell. So before we get into the content, guys, before we get into the actual nuts and bolts of it, I'm going to show you what sort of performance you can expect from a Performance Max campaign. I'm going to take you into a live ad account, walk you through it, talk you through it, just so you can understand what is sort of possible. And then after that, I'll take you into that account and show you how to optimize it. So guys, we are now inside a Performance Max campaign for an e-commerce client of mine. It's been running from around about the start of August, and these are the kind of results you can expect. So we've spent $4,260 and we've made nearly $40,000, $29.80 cost per conversion. While that, some of you may think that's high, these products are from $600 to like $1,500, $2,000, so $30 cost per conversion is nothing, and we will look to keep increasing that budget. We have done that, so $973 spent in August gave us $7,400. Then we spent $1,100, we got $12,524. Then last month we did $1,467 and made $14,776. If we look at the return on ad spend, so the conversion value over cost, sitting at 9.25. This will continue to improve over time as we optimize this campaign. But this is kind of what you can expect with a Performance Max campaign for an e-commerce store. And we'll now head back over and I'll talk you through some other areas and how we optimize our campaigns. So now you've seen what is possible. What exactly is optimization? You probably have heard of it a lot, but maybe you don't 100% know what it means. For me, optimization is the process or the steps you can take to improve the performance of your Google Ads account as a whole. In this video, we're talking about how to improve the performance of a particular type of campaign, a Performance Max campaign. So what can you do to a Performance Max campaign to make it work better? For most people, this is going to mean either getting more sales or more leads, so increasing the volume of conversions, or two, they want to bring down the cost per acquisition. So they want to spend the same amount or less, but bring down that cost per acquisition. So bring down the amount we need to spend to get that result. So we want to spend less and get either the same result, but basically what we're trying to do is improve it, right? We want to spend less, we want to give less money to Google and improve the performance of our campaign. So sometimes it means spending more, but it can also mean spending less. So I hope you understand what optimization is, but we're really just looking for improvements. Before I get into what I do, I'm going to tell you what Google's best practices are for Performance Max campaigns. Their first best practice is, obviously, you need to have conversion tracking set up. Performance Max campaigns utilize Google's machine learning algorithm to use your data to then go and find more prospective customers for your business. If you're not feeding it accurate quality data, it will not work, it cannot work. So that's the first thing. The second is they actually want you to run campaigns for a minimum of 6 weeks before actually even touching them. That's why the previous video I mentioned on correct and proper setup is just so important. In setting these up is actually 50%, if not more, of the battle. If they're not set up correctly, then you're setting yourself up for failure straight away. So watching that first video is actually really important to this second one. They recommend you add at least 5 different versions of headlines and assets and things like that. And they also obviously recommend at least 5 images, but they kind of hint the more the better. They also recommend using relevant audience signals. So that is something a little bit new at Google for Performance Max. Performance Max uses something called audience signals, which basically tells Google, kind of gives it a little bit of information as to who your customer might be. So it gives it a little bit of information of, hey, my customer looks like this person, and then they'll go and find someone similar, but over time they'll build on that and improve. So it's just a starting point. Now, what do I actually agree with these? So definitely conversion tracking is important. If you don't have accurate and properly working conversion tracking, you're starting off on the wrong foot. It will not work, it cannot work. You need to make it that you're giving it proper information. If you're not, how can it possibly work? So conversion tracking is super important. Having all that set up correctly is something I see a lot of people actually not do. So time is a huge factor. The 6 weeks actually, look, for some accounts, 6 weeks is too much. It might be 2, 3, 4 weeks, but for some it might be more. Some accounts need just months and months of testing and trialing. Depends on competition, depends on what you're selling. Like if it's a product that not many people are buying often, but it's high ticket, you might need to let it run a lot longer. You're really wanting to give Google data information and feed it that information so it can then go and find buyers. Sometimes it takes quite a while to find it. Sometimes it just doesn't work. If possible, I'd also recommend adding offline conversions as well, because the more information you give Google, the better. I'm actually testing out also adding events like add to cart, initiate checkout, and other valuable events to see if that can give Google more data to try and go and find more people, because the more data we feed it, the better. I'm still in the early phases of testing that. I actually find using too many assets to be a negative. So Google's telling you to do that sometimes can be bad, especially if you haven't done proper segmentation, so grouping like products or like services together. If you upload too many different types, I think it actually does more harm than good. So more on segmentation later in the video. Yeah, I do find being specific with your asset groups to be vital. The audience portion of what they recommend, I actually find if you've got an account that has lots of data, lots of conversion history, Performance Max is actually a really good candidate for you, and those audiences mean nearly nothing. I find that if you get a lot of conversions quite regularly, the audience signal is really not going to be that helpful for you. I still test different types of audience signals, but I find that if you're getting lots of conversions, it makes very, very little difference. Okay, so now you understand Google's best practices. I'm going to take you through what I think and what I do to improve and optimize my Performance Max campaigns. So how do I optimize Performance Max campaigns? I'm going to show you what I look for and what I do to improve that performance of these campaigns. So first and foremost, as I said, I specialize in e-commerce, and I've mainly used Performance Max for e-commerce stores. So it involves using a Google Merchant Center feed that has all your product information connected to your Shopify or e-commerce store, and then linked to the Google Merchant Center and to Google Ads. What this means is that standard Google Shopping best practices for optimization apply, and I have a lot of videos on the channel that I'll leave a link below and also here for you to watch on how to optimize your Google Merchant Center feed. So Google Shopping best practices still apply here, and I don't hear anybody talking about it. They're all focused on how do I optimize Performance Max. They're not talking about, hey, you know what, a big portion of Performance Max is actually shopping for e-commerce stores. Now, if you're running lead gen, you can just skip this portion, the actual Merchant Center part. You don't obviously have no feed. You're doing everything else other than this. This video will still apply to you. A clean product feed, well optimized, is vital to it. I'm going to take you through what exactly you need as a basic step, but I do recommend going and watching those Google Shopping optimization videos to give you more information. The first Google Shopping optimization for the Merchant Center would actually be go and fix any product disapproval. So if you have any product missing, how are you going to get sales? If they're disapproved, they're not going to work, it's not going to run. That's the first step. Go in, fix those, and regularly check if you have any errors. From there, improve your titles, your descriptions. Price is also a big factor, so playing around with your price point can make a huge difference. And then we have things like images. Testing different images, trialing different images, improving, going and looking at what the competition is doing that you can do different or better. And the other thing is Merchant Center promotions and other things that improve the click-through rate, like having your product reviews and things like that, can make a huge difference to the performance of a Performance Max campaign. Now, if you're just wanting to scale, so get more sales or leads, this is what I do to optimize the campaign. So first, make sure you're giving it plenty of time. As a bare minimum, give it a month, 6 weeks, 2 months of just running without trialing anything really big. So I know sometimes that's hard, particularly if you're not getting good results, but that's why I recommend starting on a lower budget, right? So you might start on $20, $30, $40, $50 per day and start there, and then slowly increase after that month, 6 week, 2 month kind of period. So the most basic thing you can do in this instance is actually just increase your budget. Do it slowly. There's no wrong or right percentage, but the slower, the better. Small increments, make sure that performance doesn't drop off too much. What I find is normally you'll increase your budget a little bit and then performance drops for 1, 2, 3 days and then it recovers. So that means that I would say don't make budget changes more than say twice a week. Unless it's doing really, really well. And in that case, you could even do more frequent. But for most people, probably once a week is going to be enough. Scaling can involve segmentation. So if you have a lot of products and only a few of them are getting clicks conversions, then you might actually start segmenting them into, say you're selling a bunch of different types, like say you're selling backpacks, shoes, and hats, right? You might take all the backpacks and just make an asset group or a campaign, or you might take all the shoes and make them in their own campaign and then put specific things there. Or you can segment your best sellers if you're selling all the same or similar things and put them in their own kind of asset group or campaign to give them a bit more love. And then the other factor is actually just going in and improving the conversion rate of your page, doing some CRO on your own page. Think of it, how is a customer looking at this site and what is stopping them from buying, or is there an element of trust missing? So I've got videos on how to improve your conversion rate of your actual store on my channel. Check them out, or just go through YouTube, and there's plenty of good YouTubers out there that specialize in conversion rate optimization. Go through that, make sure your product page is really, really top notch. So now I'm going to take you through an actual ad account, guys, and I'm going to show you what I do step by step to improve the performance and just what's available to you, because Performance Max does have less optimizations available, but there are definitely things you can do to improve the performance of your campaign and stuff like that. So now you understand what's available, guys. I want to take you through some myths, misconceptions, and just things and quirks that I've found with Google Performance Max campaigns. So guys, we're back in the campaign, the exact same one I showed you earlier with the results. And I'm going to take you through exactly what I would do when I'm optimizing a Performance Max campaign. So to optimize a Performance Max campaign, on the left-hand side, you would just come across and click the Performance Max. We only have one campaign, so if you have multiple, this is where they'll be. We'll go to this particular campaign just to show you exactly what you would do. And I always review the first tab. And what I'm wanting to see is over the month to month or week to week, I look more at a month to month kind of period. Even a week to week, there isn't a lot you can do to change the performance. And if you do it too early, like this campaign's only been running really since August, so August, September, October, 3 months. So that's actually a good period of time for Performance Max to be running. We want to look and we want to analyze the data, and we want to see, as we're spending more, are we making more money? And we are. We spent 973, we made over 7,000, over 1,000, we did 12,000, over 1,400, we did 14,000. So it's kind of hovering around the 9 to 10x ROI, which is really, really good. what you then want to do is I kind of work my way down this list here. Quite often we'll have recommendations here. Quite often I will not do them. So just rule of thumb is just review these, but take them with a grain of salt. Your next step is to look at your Insights tab, and this is actually where you can start drawing some conclusions and doing stuff. So it does give you information on a last 7 day, but I'm going to look at the last 28 days just to give us a bit more data, and it kind of will show you how you've tracked, right? We've done less conversions here, but the value is exactly the same. Cost is up, ROAS is around 1,020. We're kind of tilting, we're pretty much exactly the same as the last month. This doesn't sound 100% right to me, but it must be. Sorry. Scratch that whole bit, Alex. I'll go back to recommendations. So the next section we will look at will be Insights. So within the Insights tab, it starts to give you informations on like which search terms and which audiences are kind of your ads are being triggered by. So here we can start to look at which keywords did our ads come up for. And you can look at this on a 7-day or 28-day period, and this will start showing you which search terms you're coming up for, and you can look at it on a cost basis. You can look at it on a conversions, clicks, impressions, conversion value, click-through rate, and conversion rate. So you can kind of look and see here, what are you coming up for? What is driving the conversions, all right? Then you can kind of go, oh, what's driving the clicks? So I've sorted it by sales, and our most, I guess, high converting keyword is electric trikes for sale. So what you can do with that is, if you do not have electric trikes or electric trikes for sale or any of these keywords here, you can click them and start to have a look. You can actually put those titles in your shopping merchant center titles. So you could go in and alter your SEO descriptions or alter your feed to include some of these. That's one option that you could do. The other thing you could do is, if you have created an audience within your audience tab over here, down on the side. So if you've created an audience signal in your asset group, you could go and either add, remove, improve that. That's another area that you can actually make some difference in. So all we're really looking at with optimization is which areas can we actually impact? What can we change? And titles and things like that are a big part of it. The other factor is the audience. So work your way down this list, have a look. And what you could do then, guys, is you could actually create some segments and test some of these different audiences in their own asset group. The next thing I would look at is I would start to look at my competitors. And then, okay, who is this? Who's Little Nation? Who's Pro Gear Bikes? Can I have a look and see at what they're doing? Let me have a look and see. And you can start and look at their website and look at the particular category that they're in and see what sort of products are they coming up in. And it would more than likely these ones here. And you can start to go, okay, probably the balance bike, things like that that we're competing with. Now, can I make improvements? Then maybe I'll go to the shopping tab and go Little Nation. What's coming up? Now, likely these trikes here are what we are competing with, and it's a totally different product. So it's not something we're probably going to directly compete with, just to be aware. And we can actually get product ideas from this as well. That's the other factor that you could be looking at. So that's what you can then do, look through each one and just see how you compare to your competitors. Are they really competitors? This is more just digging and seeing what improvements you can make kind of on page, feed. You could add some assets there and compare them to what they're doing. You could review your competitors' images and see if you can improve them. So these are the sort of things you can do. Asset groups. Now, what I like to do, if you saw my first video, is actually have a few of these different ones, but on this one in particular, I've created a remarketing and trike bike audience, and I've used multiple different images. So I've got 8 images, 1 logo, 5 headlines, 3 long headlines, and 3 descriptions, right? And basically I've got all my remarketing audiences, and then I have trike bikes and trike bike keywords in the audience signal. So you can edit your audience signal here. You might want to test different asset groups over time. And because I'm selling the same sort of products in this, I haven't split it out. But if I was selling skateboards as well, I would create a different asset group for skateboards, and then my actual audience signal here, instead of having the keywords for trike bikes, which is here, I'll show you the keywords here, I might include search terms for skateboards, electric skateboards, things like that. Or I might try people with interest and purchase intentions. Here, I'm just looking at the exact search terms, and you always get a little bit of information here. So you can then go, okay, my audience is mainly male, and the average age is 35 to 44, and most of them are non-parents. Interesting. You would have thought that probably people would be parents in this, but again, you can make some tweaks to these audiences. But what I find, as I said, audiences, there's not, other than your starting point or in a new ad group, that's all you kind of can use them for. And that's why I said an account that already has heaps of data is probably going to do better with Performance Max than one that's totally new. But you can start off with Performance Max. You just have to give it a bit more time. You give it the full 6 weeks to 8 weeks, if not more, to kind of collect that data and collect that information before you could then go and make any drastic improvements. So asset groups, obviously you could duplicate it, create a new one. That's sort of the thing you could do. And then you could actually, within each of those asset groups, you might want to test just a few products in each one. So in here, in the listing groups or under products, we can start having a look and see, okay, which products are not giving us good results, and we can either pause them here or we can totally remove them from our feed. So we would have a look and go, okay, I often will review the product first and see, okay, why? Why is this product in particular not doing well? Is it the price point? What is it about this product that isn't doing well? And to be honest, I'm still very happy with this, even though it has a lower conversion rate than others. It's giving me a decent ROAS, getting plenty of conversions, and it's giving me $6,000 in sales. So I probably wouldn't pause that particular listing. But you can look at it by conversion value, by cost. So if you want to sort by cost, this is going to give you what you've spent the most on. And you can kind of assess, okay, I've spent $476 on this with no sale. I'm going to pause this, okay? I'm not getting any money on this one. Why would I keep running ads? And this is one that, because I'm lumping everything together, this is a perfect example of how I actually had conversions on this, but I didn't have conversion value. So I've obviously missed this one, and this is straight away an improvement I can make in this account. This is why I actually like doing this live, because I actually learned from my own mistakes here. And over time, even though I was looking at conversion rate, cost per conversion, this was probably just a phone call, to be honest, or a different type of conversion. And that's why likely this isn't getting as much love anymore. So if I looked at it on a 7-day period, probably not as much, but I'm actually going to pause this product. I'm going to exclude it, and this will improve our ROI straight away. Now, these ones here have also spent 132, giving me some conversions. And the reason I'm willing to spend a bit more on these guys is this isn't a dropshipping store, this is a brand. So these people have all of these products in stock. So they need to get rid of them. So really, I'm willing to spend several $100s before I push it, right? Before I cancel that entirely. This one, 476, and even this one, I probably could leave longer, particularly over the Black Friday period, but I'm just giving you an example. I will likely keep it paused as well, and I think most people on a smaller budget with these things would probably pause it as well. But it's not to say, like, I could leave this on and tomorrow it gets 3 sales and the picture changes completely, right? So don't be too scared about spending some money to collect some information, because this is also collecting who isn't your customer. And so this is going to go, okay, because what it will do is it will tend to favor things that start to get lots of impressions, lots of clicks, and then eventually sales, especially if you're not getting a huge volume of sales like this is. It will favor these sort of products for quite a bit of time before switching. So that's an example here, guys. I'm going to leave everything else on just because they actually own the stock in a lot of these, so I don't want to pause something that potentially they need to move, okay? We can also look through the different assets here as well and see if we want to improve them, but look, I don't have many on these ones. There's not really much to improve in them, but if you have lots of different things, so if you run promotions, prices, things like that, by all means go and do it. Products, again, this is just a different view. I've now removed this here. And also keep an eye out on errors like not ready or out of stock. If it's a client, you could go, hey, one of your best sellers is out of stock. When's it coming back? You know, we're getting a 34x ROI on this one. What's going on? And then same, promotional image overlay. So this is one where we straight away can go, and it's probably better to look at this in the diagnostics tab or in the merchant center, but you can kind of go, okay, I need to fix this because this was getting me a really good ROI, so I need to fix this one. What's going on? We need to remove that image there, okay? Makes sense? And you can scroll through here and go, okay, which products are doing well, which aren't, what's the price point that tends to do really well for us? And as you can see, it looks like this, while it's doing really, really well, ROI is not as high as the ones in the 650 range, right? Not ready, out of stock. Again, hit them up about that one. You can review this stuff within the diagnostics tab as well. And you can kind of go, okay, 10 out of stock. I've got some that are excluded as well, where I've had sales before, but I would have excluded them for a reason. You can go back and have a look as to why, and you can kind of assess and go, yeah, I shouldn't have, or yeah, I should have removed them. And that's another thing you can look at. Within the settings, one area that you can make a big change is in customer acquisitions. So if you are finding you aren't getting much traction with your Performance Max campaign, you can come in here and go, I want to bid higher for new customers, right? So an existing customer might be $278, I'm willing to bid $54 more for a new customer, right? So if you find that your campaign stagnates after pushing the budget, come in here and click this on. I find that this sometimes can start showing it to new people. So always make sure you've got your correct feed in here. Make sure you have the correct country. If you have an actual physical location, put your shop location in there. And a really, really big thing, guys, is what I found with Performance Max. If it's doing well, increase the budget. If it's doing poorly, first step, add a target return on ad spend. And what target return on ad spend? Prior to whatever drop off you had, like say your return on ad spend drops off a cliff, I would actually come in here, and once you see like a month of it doing poorly, add a target return on ad spend around about what it was prior to before it falling off a cliff and not doing as well. So if you were getting a 5x ROI and now you're getting a 3x, you could put it around the 4.5, 4.75, 475%, somewhere there. This can actually make a really, really big difference, surprisingly. It is a lot harder to scale with a target return on ad spend, I find, but if it's doing poorly, or if you need to hit a particular return on ad spend, you can set one from the get-go. And other than that, if you have an end date, that's something you can do as well. Final URL expansion. If you're finding a particular URL is not converting for you, you can add this in here or you can exclude it. You can turn off final URL expansion. I've left it on because I found that particularly for e-commerce stores, if you're willing to let this run a while, can do quite well with it, because what it's going to do is it's going to use broad match keywords to trigger particular websites, URLs on your website, and therefore get you sales. For e-commerce, it can do really, really well. For non-e-commerce, I tend to actually turn this off unless you're selling something that, and lots of your web pages are really well optimized. You don't have lots of fluff pages with all these random things. E-commerce sites, most of the time is going to send them either to collection pages or product pages. And over time, it actually gets you a lot more sales. It's literally just like having a dynamic search ad, which I quite often run now, to be honest. So from here, guys, the other major thing you can look at is actually your change history. You can look at and see how often you make changes, and if it's too often, stop doing it. And then you can see on a particular day, if something drops off a cliff, you can actually add a note there and go, okay, this is what I did, maybe I shouldn't do that. If you have multiple countries and say a particular country, once you get to the location tab, Next thing you can actually alter, guys, is the location. We're just running Australia here, but if you want to get to the nitty gritty, you can go to postcodes, provinces, all these different states, regions. So regions and states are the exact same in Australia because we only have states and territories. And here you can look at, okay, where am I spending most of my money? Oh, Queensland, makes sense. That's where the client is based. Where am I getting a really good cost per conversion? Actually, South Australia, Australian Capital Territory, these two are getting us really, really good cost per conversions. We might find that we only run these to these top 3 or 4 or 5 places, and we can just we can exclude the ones that are getting higher. So say we're getting a really, really bad cost per conversion on this, maybe we just exclude this state completely, right? So we've only had 2 conversions, but we've only spent $100. Might be a candidate for removing it. And to be honest, shipping's high there, so let's just exclude that for now. We're just going to completely exclude that state, and we'll come back in a month's time and see if it was a good call. That money is now going to be diverted to other areas, and we should hopefully get a better result for the client. From there, I don't really like to put ad schedules in for e-commerce, guys. I don't find it gets you a better result. Google only spends on the times when people are online. So I've never found a huge reason to do it unless you have a really big e-commerce store. Then it can actually make a huge difference. So if you say on the weekend you get no sales on your site or very minimal, actually just not running it on those days might save the client a heap of money. Performance Max will kind of optimize for that. It normally doesn't do it quick enough though. So you can add an ad schedule here, and say on weekends, say your office is closed and you don't want to actually process any sales or have any additional sales over the weekend, you can just pause that. So ad schedule just means you're running it at a particular time. And that is the crux of it, guys. Other than that, watch my shopping optimization videos, because in terms of the merchant center level optimizations, there's heaps you can do on there, and then product page focused ones as well. So the main things you can affect are all here in your asset groups, in your audiences, in your merchant center feed, and then your product page. So these are the sort of things you need to look at. Over time, you will build a good little routine, but if I find that working my way down this left-hand side, just a really easy way to keep on top of things. Don't make changes too frequently, and you will be just fine. We'll jump back in and I'll run you through a few quirks that I've found with Google Performance Max campaigns. The first is Performance Max is not a silver bullet, okay? So it's if you aren't doing well on other avenues like Facebook, Google, and you think just by switching to a Performance Max campaign on its own, not really too much done, just plumped everything together, not necessarily going to be a silver bullet, okay? So it's not going to save a failing business. It's just another type of campaign to add to your arsenal. Sometimes it works really well, sometimes you have to go to standard shopping, and that's the second thing I find, that sometimes I'm often finding myself going back to standard shopping because, I'm finding just branded terms are coming up for my campaign when I'm just coming up for my branded terms and nothing else, and so it's really, really hard to scale that because I'm not able to get enough impressions. I actually have sometimes found running a standard shopping campaign alongside a Performance Max actually still occasionally works, particularly if you're using target ROAS on the campaign. Changes really need to be infrequent with your Performance Max campaigns, just like any Google campaign. I say this all the time, less changes, the better. I find that making too many changes too often actually hinders your performance and you will get a worse result. If your campaign is doing poorly, you've probably not let it run long enough, or you're not going through the optimizations that I mentioned. Quite often I find people are just really impatient and they're like, look, I ran it for 2 weeks or 2 days and it just did really poorly. Performance Max doesn't work. Guys, if that is your attitude, the days where you turned on ads for any type of platform and it did really, really well, they're gone. So you're very unlikely to find that. If you're trying to build a business on that, it's kind of akin to gambling. I don't recommend it. I recommend that you treat this as a solid business that takes time to build, okay? This stuff. And then just bring a mindset of data collection, and that machine learning takes data and time and money to do well. If you're not bringing in that mindset of, I'm going to have to spend some money, I'm going to have to collect some information, then it's probably not the right avenue for you. Now that you understand a bit about the quirks, how to optimize, I've run through everything I do on how to improve these campaigns. There will be later videos on a bit more of the actual specifics and different areas that might need to be delved into more. But if you let me know in the comments below what you didn't understand or what you need more information on, I will make more videos on those topics. But for those of you that have stayed here till the end, thank you very much. I appreciate you listening, and I will see you in the next video.